Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our second TravMedia Meets webinar of this year, 2025. I'm Henry Hemming, Global Advisor to TravMedia. It's lovely to have you here. We have a special one today. It's Luxury Travel Meet the Media, a real touch of velvet today. We have an all-star panel for you here to unpick the latest trends in luxury travel and, of course, cover off its intersection with the PR world. Our media will consider the top destinations for 25, the sector's latest offerings to woo high-spend travelers, and everything really that's in at the moment, from conservation experiences to six-star hotels. So strap in tight. I'd like to introduce the panel now so they can quickly say hi. We are very delighted to have with us today, in no particular order, Susan Darcy, the luxury travel and wellness editor of The Times and Sunday Times. Hi, Susan.
Hello, everybody.
Great to have you. Also, we have Lizanne Curry, luxury travel writer and editor. Hello, Lizanne.
Morning.
And finally, we have April Hutchinson, the editor and publisher of TTG Luxury at TTG Media. Hello, April. Hi.
Hello, good morning.
Great to see you. Excellent. Delighted to have you here. So, everyone, we're going to get our panelists' expert predictions on the destinations and types of travel that will encourage luxury travelers to splash out. And as well as gauging their thoughts on feature-worthy offerings, they will also, they've told me they will give you some advice on how to pitch to them and build long-term relationships. So I'm going to ask them in a minute to make their pitch to you one by one. And then after that, we will, as ever on these TravMedia Meets webinars, go to you for questions. So do start putting your questions in the Zoom Q&A, and I will try and cover off as many as I can. Have a think about what you'd like to ask. And always, we love social, and so do our panelists. So we'd love to see your content post this webinar. And before we get going, just a quick shout out to Mason Rose's wonderful Jenny Holman and her team's input at an early stage of this webinar. You're a superstar, Jenny, and thank you very much to Mason Rose. Okay, so April has very kindly offered to take to the podium first. April Hutchinson, editor and publisher at TTG Luxury. So TTG Luxury is a quarterly magazine and website for the UK's community of luxury travel advisors and travel professionals. April was its launch editor and has grown the portfolio over 18 years into many further segments, which she'll be covering in a minute. And I believe in her time at TTG, she's traveled to a mere 70 countries in a 30-year career as a travel journalist and editor. And doubtless she will recite those 70 in alphabetical order. April, lovely to have you here, and over to you.
Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, we haven't got time to play destination bingo, have we? But yeah, very lucky to have been to some amazing places and continue to do so. I'll just give a quick overview of TTG for those who don't know. It stands for Travel Trade Gazette. It's the world's oldest travel industry newspaper, established in 1953. So as Henry said, we're very much focused on talking to the trade, telling the trade about itself, what it's doing, and then also bringing in trends that really affect it, you know, what news headlines are causing travel delays, upsets. But then I obviously focus on the luxury side of things. So that's quarterly magazine. It goes to 5,000 travel bookers in the UK and some in Ireland. It's a mix of news, features, business advice, hotel reviews. We have a very active, vibrant website, which if you've ever been on it, you'll hopefully have noticed it's divided into core channels. So we have a sustainability channel, luxury channel, cruise channel, and a destinations channel. And so all the content that we put online filters into those umbrellas, if you like. And luxury is obviously one of those four, and it has a newsletter every Wednesday. And we really focus on, it's a less is more strategy. You know, if a story makes it onto our newsletter, then it really has to have, it has to wash its face and be a really strong story. We literally only do about 5 stories per newsletter these days, because we're really concentrated on that quality journalism and not just journalism around press releases and new hotel openings and that sort of thing, which we think our readers can get in lots of other ways. So we also run lots of events. We have 3 major awards initiatives a year. We have the TTG Luxury Travel Awards, the TTG Top 50, and the Travel Industry Awards by TTG. So they take up a lot of our time these days, very focused on recognition of brilliance across the travel industry. We focus on travel agent training events, any kind of programs and initiatives that are really going to help travel agents boost their skills and help them sell better holidays, design better trips. We work with PwC on an agenda report a few times a year. We're going to be launching a luxury version of that this year, which should be really interesting. So we'll keep you posted on that. We have a very strong partner content team. In the old days, we obviously would have called it advertorials, but it's part content now. But that's a really positive strand of our business that our journalists do focus on quite a lot. We're also providers of insight. We commission client research, and we're about to launch a series of insight reports, some of those that will be luxury specific. So yeah, as I said, our news is really what's going to help agents do their jobs better. We don't really care about Valentine's Day packages given to me now when it's 10 days away. We really want PRs to work with us to think about interesting angles that are really going to help the travel advisor community do their jobs better. That obviously includes independent home workers, travel designers, concierge companies, luxury tour operators. So we have a vibrant community and audience out there that can really impact the sales and the business of your clients. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, which some of you may know about, is Notice Board, which whilst we're off doing our journalist thing and creating all this very unique content, we do appreciate that there is still a need for all the pertinent press release content that's out there. So Notice Board allows PRs to self-upload their press releases. They do go through a I was going to say filter then, what's the word? Somebody at TTG does check before they go live. And then the Notice Board stories do go on our newsletters. So you do get eyes on them. And it just makes sure that we can keep that product content coming through, but we're also focused on the bigger picture stories amongst our journalist team. We are very much focused on sustainability. We're a B Corp company. We have a philosophy of smarter, better, fairer, which aims to promote smarter, better, fairer ways of doing things in the travel industry. That filters down to everything we do, things from, as a business, we track our own carbon footprint of individuals. We try and have vegetarian first menus at our big events. So we're trying to walk the talk as well as write about it. And that moves me on to trends, because I know it's a bit, we need to find a sexier way to keep talking about sustainability. But to me, it is a very, very, it's not even a trend. It's just intrinsic to what we should be doing, how we should be thinking. So we try and, we do focus a lot on that. And I'm very keen to hear from people on interesting ways of getting that across to our audience, fascinating stories of how things are being done. But maybe we'll go into that in a bit more detail sort of down the line. But I wanted to say some of our trends and the things that we really look for. We do look for booking trends. So if PRs have, details on sort of things that are selling really well, then yes, we do want to hear it. But, it has to be relevant to the trade audience. We do feel there's a softening in the market at the moment when it comes to luxury travel. In 2023, 24, we had sort of average booking values that were sort of going through the roof. I hated the phrase revenge travel, but people did splash out big time, and now they are sort of reining that in a little bit. Still, the headwinds, there's a lot of headwinds sort of facing the industry, global perma crisis, inflation, things like that. But people, they love travel. They'll still continue to travel, and they want really good experiences. And I was going to try not to say the word experiences, but I've done it. Because I think we should talk about overuse of a cliched language in PR, particularly luxury PR, at some point during this discussion. Back to the PwC report that we did most recently, 7 in 10 tour operators had experienced greater demand for higher end travel. So it is, as I said, it's definitely still out there. Our audience is the travel advisor, and we really have seen and hope, and it's legitimized, the return and the renaissance of the luxury travel advisor. Well, just the travel advisor generally, whether it's a high street Hayes branch or these individual high-end concierge companies. There's never been a higher value placed on someone you trust to resolve things, to help you. And I would say that because that's our audience, but we genuinely are feeling that. So it just reiterates that this is an interesting channel for your clients to be involved in. And if you pitch it right, then obviously you're talking to these very engaged travel bookers who can really move, can really make a lot of bookings for your clients. On the destination side, I had something from Knightsbridge Circle, which some of you may know is a super high-end 500k spend per member. And they say the biggest book destinations for 2025 at the moment are Japan, Maldives, London, Thailand, and Côte d'Azur, as well as an increasing number of requests for private islands. Those elements are still key. Privacy is very important to this market, obviously. Back on the sustainability element, I really want to flag just the great depth we're seeing of, well, breadth of sustainable focused dining. I love what's happening with people like Daniel Hum, Mara El Greco, this restaurant Boca in Dubai, where, they're really just nailing it in terms of amazing, sexy eating that has these core sustainability elements at their heart. And yeah, I just think we need to focus a bit more on that and get those kind of stories out there, and just make it interesting that this is a great way to eat. It doesn't have to be caviar and foie gras and all these kind of things if you're talking about luxury dining. And I found this quote that I wanted, you've probably all seen it, but Daniel Hum said, "It's a beautiful thing to think that after you've enjoyed a meal, no life had to be given for it." And surely there's no greater luxury than contentment. And if that makes you feel content that you've had a good meal and no one's had to, die in the process. I think this is a massive shift that people are really trying to interrogate what's on the plate. And the more stories we hear about that, the better. We don't write about restaurants specifically, but we like to give hail to people that are doing the right thing. On a more maybe pedestrian level, but it's important to talk about it, and you like to go from sustainability to this, but cruise is a big part of what we do. And there's just such a lot of interesting movement going on in the luxury cruise space at the moment. Ponon and Aqua Expeditions sort of merging, riverboats going down the Magdalena in Colombia, all the brands that you know about, the Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, Aman, sort of building small ships, the existing larger ships, mid-range ships like Explorer Journeys being built in the future with much more sustainability in mind. These chances to see really remote places on expedition cruises, the Kimberley in Australia, Alaska, obviously done in the right way, so you're not damaging where you're going. But I think that's a really big continuing trend. Another one for me, I think, which as one of these, a 50+ female solo traveler who is appealing to them. There are millions of us out there. I'm not saying, you're solo and you don't have a partner, but you might want to travel solo. I think there's a real opportunity coming up to create travel packages that appeal to that demographic. I was just on safari and I just lost count of the amount of single women, older women who were just out there, living their best lives on these safaris. So, I think that's going to continue to grow, and sort of, having a better second half, as Liz Earle said with her book. And also a bit niche, but one that I'm starting to hear more about is around sober travel. I think there's a belief that the younger generations don't drink the way us old timers do, just not part of their life. And so whether it's a lifestyle choice or health choice, or you just don't fancy it. Um, I think we need to maybe see there's more in that. And, so much of luxury is wrapped up in alcohol. Here's your bottle of champagne when you arrive. Here's your welcome cocktail. You guys are going to talk about well-being and wellness, which I'm sure, there's elements of that to that. So how can we make sober travel more exciting? How can we have sober first cocktails rather than you can still have the excitement and the thrill of, oh, it's, someone's making me a great drink, but it's, I'm not going to wake up feeling awful. So I think that's something. We've got a nice piece coming up on that on the website next week. Kind of another one in line with that, I guess, seeing a massive rise in the potential of Muslim travel. That is worth 200 billion in the next decade. How do these, how do people want to travel differently? How should a hotel create packages and present itself in a way that's more appealing to all these different demographics? So that's a little bit about trends. I'm conscious I've got my 10 minutes. I'll, shout at me if I'm going too far. I wanted to say briefly about press trips. We are a very small team. It's pretty much just myself. I have a luxury travel reporter called Emma, and we have, about 7 or 8 in the content team, but they're not always able to take trips. So we do have to be really careful about which ones we accept. It's got to be, a strong news hook to it if possible. I'd love it if there was a sustainability element in it. I just commissioned 2 pieces from freelancers because they were pitched to me with us at least half the journey was by train. There was a chance to do some of those things on the ground that are more sort of conservation or sustainability focused. So I'm really interested in things like that. When it comes to people pieces, interviews, these days we get a lot of pushback from PR saying, oh, yeah, they suggest an interview and then it turns into a Q&A email interview, which if we really have to, we will, but there's nothing like sitting down in a chat like this and really being able to tease out proper stories from people that aren't over PR'd. So that would be a priority for us, genuinely, if you've got someone who is willing to give us a really nice interview, then, we love that. And we'll take a Q&A over email if we have to, but, I really want to see, get really into talking to people. And then, yeah, I wanted to talk about this language thing. I don't know if everybody saw Jules Perron's banned phrases tea towel at Perron Towers, but I think it came from a lot of us go to ILTM, International Luxury Travel Market, and I think I probably sat through 60 press conferences, meetings, and roundtables. And of course, all those guys, all you lovely PR people, you don't know what everyone else is sort of saying in their press releases and all the rest of it. But there was just so much lazy language. And lovely Ewan Jong, who I'm sure a lot of you know as well, made a reel at ILTM, and we all gave him our kind of, bad words that we just heard like 1,000 times. From immersive, authentic, elevated, experiential, ultra luxury, groundbreaking, multi-generational. And I know this is what we do, what we write about, but I just think we need to be a little bit smarter in how we are communicating what our clients do. And we can do that much better through teasing out really interesting stories. Like I stayed at a hotel recently and the staff uniforms were made of old bed sheets. This is a luxury property, but they're trying to, there's interesting stories there that you latch onto and you remember, rather than just, oh, the chef is this guy and the interior designer is that guy we've all heard of. So yeah, I just want people to try and give us some really interesting stories in fresh language. And I think I'll probably leave it there.
Terrific, April. Lots to talk about further later, and we've already got 3 questions in. Just a reminder to our audience, do hit the Q&A with your questions, but there's some very, very interesting topics there for travel. So we're now going to turn to Susan Darcy, the luxury, travel and wellness editor of the Times and indeed Sunday Times. She oversees the newspaper's annual hotel and spa guides and is an absolute wellness expert, appears regularly on TV, occasionally on TravMedia webinars, and also works as a consultant on luxury travel and wellness projects. Susan, lovely to have you here, and over to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, April. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. Although, actually, I think we should give people a break about cliches. We all use them.
Yeah, I know.
Teaching kindness. I'm doing the wellness angle. Anyway, the good news about the wellness market all over is that it's in very good health. According to the Global Wellness Institute, the latest stats are for the whole of the industry. So that's taking in beauty products, gym memberships, wellness, real estate. It's $6.3 trillion across the globe. And they think, I mean, you might say they would say this, but they think it's going to rise to 9 trillion by 2028. So the focus post-pandemic on wellness and being healthier hasn't gone away. People are still interested, but of course, they're totally failing because we all start out with New Year's resolutions that probably we've all ditched by now. But you can see how the travel world is really shifting to reflect this greater interest. So like influencers, travel influencers who used to be sort of posting their fashion choices are now posting their wellness routines. And lots of luxury hotels that used to sort of major on the fact they had Michelin-starred chefs, now they're talking about their international globetrotting personal trainers who have devised their gyms. And you can see this in action in places like, you know, the Emery and the OWO, who have devoted, you know, several floors to absolutely extraordinary gyms, places like Equinox, you know, in New York. And also in some of the big luxury chains, like Aman has launched Janu, which is its wellness focused brand, and it's opened in Tokyo already, and it's going to be opening in Saudi Arabia and Mexico, I think, and Montenegro. They've also got wellness ambassadors, really high profile, like Novak Djokovic. And One and Only Resorts has also partnered with people like Adam Peaty in the past. And it's also launched its own wellness-focused hotels called Syro. And the first one's in Dubai, and they're opening in Turkey and Thailand, Montenegro, and Saudi Arabia. Which brings me on to a trend that I'm sure lots of you will recoil when I say this, but Saudi Arabia, it sort of almost can't be ignored for luxury travel generally, but for wellness, I know several spa consultants who are involved in projects out there who are just sort of saying, you are not going to believe it. And you know, what they're doing out there is insane. Amala, this new resort that's coming, which will eventually be 30 resorts and 4,000 rooms, all focused on wellness. It's opening later this year. And it's got massive names in it, like Miraval, Clinique La Prairie, Rosewood, Four Seasons, Six Senses. They're all doing specific wellness resorts there. Now, I've always felt a bit queasy and not wanted to go to Saudi Arabia, but I think we really are going to have to start realizing that, for one thing, it's the thing that holds back most luxury travelers is going to send wellness luxury travelers there, which is it's a dry country. So that's the only people it's positive for is people who are on wellness trips. But it's also, you know, these resorts are situated right opposite Egypt's Red Sea resort. So it's on an amazing barrier reef. So you've got all that. You can do free diving, you can do underwater yoga with manta rays and dugongs. And, you know, I mean, there's an incredible potential. And I just don't think we can carry on ignoring it. I mean, the country only started giving out holiday visas in 2019. And yet And so obviously its wellness market is going to be growing because it started from naught. But already it's just on everybody's lips. Everyone's talking about it. We've got to think about it. And then slow travel, which is sort of a little bit what April talked about. Trains and cruises are really realizing that they've got to the luxury end, have got to compete on a wellness front now, which they never did. It was always just like, let's eat and drink and then just collapse on our beds and somehow manage to sleep because we're so overindulged. But now they want wellness, and LMVH, who have come into the market, and they are going to be massive in the travel market, luxury travel market. They really are gunning to open loads of resorts. They own Belmond, and they also own Dior. So they've put Dior spas in the Flying Scotsman and the Eastern and Oriental, and the new one that's opening in Wales, which is called Britannic Explorer or something like that. And they have all got Dior spas, but they've also got a real wellness focus. So they do yoga classes in the morning, they do wild swimming, they do hiking, and they even do jogs in the morning before the train takes off. So that's really interesting and really different. Cruises as well. We've got Crystal Cruises have launched their first wellness trips. Cunard's Queen Anne has collaborated with Harper's Bazaar to do a wellness program, 3 different sort of varieties of it. And Como are also going into spas. They're doing a cruise up in Norway. And then you get, sort of the celebrity people on board doing it. So Deepak Chopra and Gwynnie did her Goop ones, although I think they might have suffered a bit of seasickness. I don't think she's going to be doing it again. But that's all. And river cruises, it's right for it because, if you're going down a cruise in Europe, there are all those amazing European spa cities, and the bathing culture is just enormous in Europe. So, I mean, that's right for it as well. That brings me on to another huge trend, which is contrast therapy. I mean, everybody, you can barely turn on the television, radio, open a newspaper without somebody talking about having gone cold swimming. I mean, how we can keep talking about it is extraordinary. I mean, people in Cornwall just think it's just going for a swim. Why are you talking about it? But, the combination of hot sauna and cold, either plunge or swimming, is huge, and it's not going away. And in the UK, 500 pubs have closed down over the last 2 years. 150 public saunas have opened. I mean, as April was saying, younger people, apart from my godchildren who drink me out of house and home every time they come down, every other young person doesn't seem to drink, and they don't want to congregate in pubs. They want to do, they want to have these wellness experiences. And last month I went up to Liverpool to try out the wild sauna, which is going to be popping up in cities all over the UK. My godson is in Liverpool at uni, but he didn't make it at 7 o'clock because he'd had a big night before. As I say, why have I got the only godchildren who drink? But it was an amazing experience to go into a sauna and then go into the Mersey. I mean, and just be looking around at all these amazing buildings. I mean, Liverpool, I'm from Liverpool, as you can tell from my accent. And it's just the most amazing city. It's got more Grade 1 listed buildings than any other city apart from London. And you're looking at just the most beautiful buildings. And some, they've regenerated Prince's Dock, so there's some really modern ones. It's absolutely brilliant. But on a luxury travel element, because that's more democratic, it's, I don't know what it is, £15 to go for an hour and a half or something. But like luxury hotels, this is perfect for them because a lot of them have got big grounds and they've got lakes, and they can put a floating sauna on and you hire it privately. It's an amazing experience. I've done it in Norway with 62 Nord. It was incredible. It was just so magical. It was just me and my goddaughter, who also drinks like a fish. But places like Glen Eagles are doing wild swimming. And I think you can expect to see I think it's an interesting trend, and it's something that we want to write about because it's just taking it on a little bit further. And there are saunas now that do DJ nights, they do poetry readings. Apparently there's one that does speed dating. I'm just so glad I'm married, so I don't have to do that. And staying on that sort of trend of, disconnecting and getting back to nature. Another huge trend for wellness is, digital disconnection. And it's going under a few names at the moment. It hasn't sort of solidified into a, sort of a generic name yet. One of them's intentional rest. And I don't know about you, but I'm in. That sounds great. I really could do with it. Another name is restorative tourism. That's not quite so sexy, but nevertheless, or analog activities. And if you don't know what that means, it's like playing chess or doing arts and crafts. And obviously it's all these things, for me, that is actually active meditation because you're concentrating, so you don't think about things, but you're not making an effort. I think it's a really clever trend because basically none of us can meditate because you sit when they say, don't think of anything, and you immediately think, I think it's another 15 minutes because I didn't bloody send that email before I joined this class. And then you just, the whole thing's ruined for you. But if you do something like this, like I went to Soho House last year and we made jewelry and nobody looked at their phone or thought about anything. It was just so engrossing to do it. So I think there's going to be a big rise, and it's luxury hotels and travel that can do it in a really beautiful way that's really appealing. Another one on this, and I'm not going to pronounce it properly, but the Newton Somerset, its South African, forerunner, Babylon Storen, has opened a working farm. And get this, guests go there to milk cows, learn how to be a blacksmith, and mill wheat. I mean, honestly, maybe these people do need help. But it also translates into doing a long walk to a remote hut on the grounds. I did that at Depler Farm. It was amazing. They've got this little ghost farm, which is like a long walk away, and you're just there for the night. You sort of you don't fend for yourself, it's luxury travel, but you cook your own meal, but it's all been prepared for you and all that kind of thing. So I think that's a really big trend. And that leads on to another trend, which is family wellness, because, we all know that post-pandemic, everyone's mental health isn't as resilient as it used to be. Young people are really fragile, and, parents just don't know how to deal with it. And so some very clever luxury wellness resorts are really responding to this. It's a really tricky one for them because you have to do it responsibly. You can't overpromise what you're going to do, but you can just give them, coping mechanisms and teach them what emotional intelligence is and that kind of thing. Because actually, I've got some absolutely terrifying stats from the Global Wellness Institute again, which is prescriptions for antidepressants among children aged 5 to 12 in the UK rose by over 40% between 2015 and 2021. And it's in China, the first national survey of adolescents' mental health revealed that 17.5% of children aged 6 to 16 face mental health disorders, and about 100,000 teens died by suicide. And I actually have personal experience of a friend of mine, her daughter, took her own life. It's just, beyond. Again, in the US, teenagers between 12 and 17, 20% of them said that they'd had at least one major depressive episode. So this is something that obviously parents are just so worried about. Zulal, which is run by Chiva Som in Qatar, has a program which is sort of targeted at young people. It's soft meditation, it's practical, it's yoga, functional fitness, and just trying to get them to be able to speak, which I mean, and Raksa in Bangkok has a little village where they do something. It's so important. It's very hard to do responsibly, but I think it's something that people with money will really respond to, because they often can't spend that much time with their children, and they want help. So I think that's a good one. And my last main trend is that next to this softly holistic approach, we've got absolute hardcore wellness, which is the rise of the Medi Clinic and the spa trek to probe where no spa's ever probed before. I mean, you can have everything tested now. I've just been in Austria at a new Medi Spa. It was absolutely brilliant, called Mount Med, and it's actually great because it's not pretending to be a hospital. I don't know why Medi Spas think they should look like a hospital, because we don't really want to go to hospital. We want to go to a lovely luxury resort and then just do the tests. But the rise of that is really huge, and it's definitely not going away. But I do think that the luxury Mediclinics have to look at how they present it, because we are all tired, we are all a bit depressed, and we don't want a really po-faced, serious medical wellness. We want it to be a little lighthearted, a little bit more down to earth, a little bit more realistic. And Mount Med does do that, because I think it was basically built as just a general resort. And then they saw this wave in wellness. So the investors got these two amazing doctors involved. So there's a sort of medical wing. But other than that, it's like being in a proper hotel, having a proper holiday. And actually, they do the most amazing sober curious cocktails. So, I mean, you can see the overlaps. Obviously, they're all going to be there. Sleep is massive, and I've got this absolutely terrifying stat for you if you don't sleep well, and why you should address it. There's a sleep expert called Matthew Walker, and he says that every year there's a massive global experiment in how important sleep is. It's called daylight saving. And in the spring, when the clocks go forward and we lose an hour of sleep, the number of heart attacks goes up by 24%. And in the autumn, when we gain an hour of sleep, it goes down by 21%. Feel sorry for that 3% who still have the bloody heart attack. It's not fair, is it? It's doubly not fair. Anyway, so that's why sleep's huge, and it needs to be addressed. And I think one of the ones doing that best is Badrigaz, actually. It's doing a really good job. And also one of Jenny Holman's, Buchtinger in Germany. So the good mention for Jenny. Also extreme sports, like Amman's doing lots of extreme challenges. You've got places like Necker that have got all sorts of underwater scooters and e-foils and very adrenaline filled wellness soft. It's more adventure, but it falls under a sort of wellness banner. Then what's coming? We've yet to see what's going to happen with Ozempic and spas, because obviously a lot of sparring is about weight loss. But the problem with I've got no problem with Ozempic. I understand why people need to take it, and it's a real issue, but there's no education with it. And so they don't change how they eat. So as long as they stay on it, they'll be slim, but they'll be a bit miserable, because actually food's great. So we don't want to not eat. And it's hard for people on Ozempic to socialize, because all our socializing is around food, and they simply have no appetite. So it's difficult. And so I think that's a big issue, is being on Ozempic, because I think it makes people lonely. But coming off it is also a big issue. So, but how spas are going to deal with the fact that they've got so many of the people who go to lose weight, and they're not going to do it anymore. So that's a bit of an issue. I think TCM is going to really be on the rise, especially with Gen Zers, because they love MMA and they love teas because they don't want to drink. So the Chinese TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, fits in really well, because it's, Tai Chi and all of that, it's all based on mixed martial arts. So I think that they gravitate to that more than Ayurveda, but it's not here yet, but it's coming for sure. And of course, the obsession with the microbiome is going to continue. But I think it's going to move from the gut to our other microbiomes, because we've got oral hygiene is incredibly important. Some heart attacks, possibly the 3% who still got it after when they shouldn't have done. It's, you know, bad bacteria in your mouth can give you a heart attack. Your skin microbiome is incredibly important. So many people, especially young people, have, you know, sort of problems with dermatitis and psoriasis, and so skin microbiome's coming up. But one little fact for you is that bacteria, our microbiome, which are these micro organisms on our body and in our body, add up to 2.5 kilos worth of weight, of your weight. How incredible is that? Unless you're very unhealthy and then you've got no microbiome, so it's probably like, I don't know, 1 kilo or something. So I think that's what's all coming up now. One thing I really want us to all start doing something about is spas charging to go into the spa. You know, this is luxury hotels as opposed to wellness resorts. I mean, I love Estelle Manor, but really £100 per person for 3 hours to go into the spa, that's just crazy. And it's like when luxury hotels first started charging for the internet, and you'd be charged per, you know, a piece of equipment. And, you know, everyone just went, hang on, we're not paying that. I really think we should start a campaign saying we're not paying to, you know, and it's only new spas, hotel spas, that can do it, because existing ones can't suddenly slap on a charge. So it's really unfair, and I really think we should complain about it. Pitching really quickly, because, oh, sorry, I don't want to take Lisanne's time. Basically, as April said, we want stories. We don't just want a list of facilities. For us, photography is hugely important. So if you do a good pitch to me and then I look on the website and the photographs are just like making me lose the will to live, we're not going to do the piece, because, you know, our readers are going to look at it and think, is she insane? I'm not going there. So photography, because it's, you know, I've had places I've been to that are really gorgeous, but when I try and bid for them to be given an award, everyone just looks at the website and says it looks horrible. But it isn't. It's just not got good photography. So stories, photography, and also, I don't mind cliche language, but don't do 10 different things on one email. But, you know, do separate subject matters for every subject you're talking to me about, and don't just send me impersonal press releases, because I just think this is going out to everyone. I can't be bothered. I mean, if there's one thing we know about journalists, it's they're bloody lazy. So they're not going to make much of an effort. So you have to pitch it so that, you know, in that subject matter, so it intrigues. Sorry, I hope I didn't take up too much time.
That was brilliant. The theatre in one act. I kind of thought there was a TED talk there about the luxury travel industry and personal and social responsibility and emotional growth. So I think you should do that, Susan. You're absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Marvellous.
Do you think I'll get money out of it?
Well, I don't know.
I don't want to
go around with a hat afterwards, asking the audience, maybe. Brilliant. Lisanne Curry has been a journalist and editor for just over 30 years. Started on Melody Maker, which gives her lifelong cred. She then moved to teenage magazines to apparently save her liver, becoming editor of Hachette's Teen Group and their Teen Group of titles and their editorial director. After a stint in Women's Mag, she became editor-in-chief of Sky's magazine portfolio, then moved into business publishing, becoming editor of the Institute of Directors, Director magazine, and their head of content. 7 years ago, she launched her own business, Meet the Leader, and she writes about, and indeed for, business leaders in all sector, increasingly in travel and hospitality. And travel makes up a big part of what Lisanne writes about, and she delivers her words to titles including Forbes, Robb Report, Tempest, VistaJet, Diplomat, Secret Trips, and Luxury Spa Edit. Lisanne, over to you.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a just who we are, because it's a bit left field, sort of what we've created with Meet the Leader. So I'm a hospitality baby. My dad was in hotels, my mum was cabin crew, so I've grown up with it. We didn't have a Christmas day with my dad until he was 76, because he was always in a hotel or one or the other. So I love it. I love the industry. It's in my blood. I've been writing about travel on every sort of, quite a wiggly career, but on every magazine. So whether it's teen, we did a lot of travel then at Sky. God, it was good old days. There were budgets to send us off to sets left, right, and centre. Then when I moved into business travel, and this is where the sort of Meet the Leaders started sort of really coming to life, I got really, really interested in the sort of alchemy, I suppose, between business leaders and travel, because they never ever said they got their best ideas at their desk. It was always when they were traveling. It was always when they were doing something. So when I left there and I started the business, we sort of started not really with a great plan, to be honest. It was quite organic. I was always writing about travel for different titles, and I'll sort of rattle through those and how best you can pitch, because we are a little bit left field. But we also are increasingly working in the hospitality sector with hotels, GMs, owners, investors that we've met, and doing their back office work as well. So we're ghostwriting for them. We do LinkedIn opinion pieces, because what I think shifted there is that they now know they can't be the anonymous behind the curtain hospitality people anymore. They've actually got to have a presence, and people really want to know who they're giving their money to, and they want to understand their values and their ethics and their purpose. And that's where we come in on that level. On the travel writing, so I'll just go through them. Luxury Spa Edit, probably some of you know Lisa, the founder. I will always review spas for her. One thing I would say is, if I go on a trip or if I go and visit a hotel or, a destination, it will go to multiple outlets always. It might take some time. You won't get them all in a month, but it will definitely do that. And there was one fantastic trip. I went to Chile, to the Atacama Desert and Patagonia with Explorer actually ages ago. And Michelle, the PR, trusted me, understood that, things would come from it. And I've probably written about 10 pieces on it in different angles, different hooks, not regurgitating it or repurposing it, but just different angles. So I would say, first of all, trust me, I will never, ever, I'm not going to shaft you. You're not going to not get anything from it. So Luxury Spa Edit is obviously spas. Secret Trips, some of you might know, some of you might have come to the launch we had last year. This is Show Media and Oliver Spencer's. It started as a blog. It then has become a business. I got involved about a year ago when we took it really from a blog to a business. It had its first print title out in October. Its next one is coming out in March. Always looking for hidden gems, the local people, expertise, their tips, destination tips, things like that. It's beautiful. Obviously, Show Media did it, so it's going to be a beautiful title. So that is that. VistaJet, I write about their long-term news. So this could be something coming out in 2026, 27. So anything like that, really good. What we do need, images, obviously, a lot of the time things aren't built. So we just need really good renderings for those, or images of how it used to be. But we can't run a story without an image there. They're beautiful double-page spread pieces, with just a paragraph of text. Ativo is a wealth management title that I write for. I look after all the travel for that. It has a lot of travel in there. The audience is 50 plus. They travel a lot. They like traveling. When we're always looking for, sorry, April, experiential stuff there, adventures. It's not fly and flop. It's something that is a bit bucket list and a bit dinner party. Like, what else have I got to talk to you about? Tempest. I do a little bit of travel for them. Diplomat too. The big ones that everyone wants are Rob Report, which I think probably everyone probably knows Nick. And, it does less and less travel now, but it still does some. And then the biggie is Forbes. Now, Forbes, I don't write for their travel department. I write for their global real estate department, which has 3 separate pillars in there. But I do a lot of travel-led pieces for them. And what I would say is, and again, third shout out to Jenny and the amazing Mason Rose team, is that I've just filed a piece on Lake Como and the rise of Lake Como, and how the actual rise in tourism there is leading into the property boom there as well. And we went to stay at the amazing Villa Sola Cabbiati. But I work closely with Jenny and with the editor at Forbes before the piece, so that we really got the angle right, so that it wasn't a surprise to anyone. So it was real collaboration. We really structured it out. They knew what I wanted from the piece. Forbes knew what they were going to get. So everyone was happy. So I would say that's sort of, because we are a little bit left field, just chat first of all, because it's never going to be a straight review. It's always going to come in on a bit of a different element. The other thing with Forbes, and I'm just on my third piece for Switzerland, actually. And so we've just again done a piece on how the luxury Swiss mountain hotels are attracting high net worth and ultra high net worth. I've got a second one coming out, which I'll be starting in a couple of weeks, on Geneva and the lakes. And again, all the PRs involved in that, if you're listening, thank you. You all got me the answers to the 3 questions I needed super quickly, and great imagery. So thank you for that. Anything destination trends, if you send any trends, I need stats and facts. Anything about hotels, I really need to know who owns it. You know, it takes me ages to find out who the investors is, and looking on Companies House and have they got any cash and where it ends up, and is it in the Cayman Islands? Again, we like to promote good business. So again, just be honest, because again, really our audiences want to know the people behind it, and I don't want to have to spend ages digging and seeing, you know, I don't know, is it actually Russian money, or, you know, we'll take a call if it is, but yes, just please give me all the stats up front. And we are really human being led, CEO led, and we write for them as well. So our audience, because that's how they operate, they want to know money, they want to know facts, stats, growth. That's their language. So we always need a little bit of that. I'm just trying to think do I need to cover anyone else? No, I think that's fine. We celebrate stories. We really like purposeful business, and we really like good business. In lockdown, we did a series, and it was really just to keep our own spirits up, actually, called Lockdown Leaders. And we ended up doing, I think, about 60 odd amazing business people, a lot of them hospitality, who were doing great things. So that's really our ethos. We just like celebrating that and sharing that. We don't write for the non-working rich. We're not right. That's not part of our bag. I'm just trying to think just quickly, because I'm really mindful of time. The trends, apart from the ones that April and Susan have mentioned, obviously wellness, massive for us. Longevity, huge. That's what I'm really, really noticing, and people wanting to live longer. And what I love is that at Euphoria Retreat, when people come and say that they want to live longer, they ask them why. And they say, what are you going to do with your next 20 years? And I think that's going to be something to really watch, is, okay, yeah, you're here, you're great, you're in great health at 90, but what are you going to do with it? And I think that sort of purpose is going to be a trend. The other thing, and don't laugh at me, but I'm really keeping an eye on this, and this is a long sort of just woo-woo thing in my head. I'm really watching the rise of spirituality, astrology, witches, everything in this CEO space. And I've been filing and keeping away the amount of CEO retreats that are happening around a new moon. Or, you know, really, you know, businesses are doing this. Big businesses are actually really working out their strategy around spirituality. And I think that's fascinating. And people are paying a lot of money to go on these kind of spiritual retreats. So that's just something I'm working on personally, and it will I'll put it out there as and when I've got all the stats and facts and it's ready to go. Pitching, you know, probably a lot of you watching, I meet people for breakfast, coffee, because I often have to say and show all the people that we write for and do those things. Press trips, one thing I would say, we have a network of about 27 journalists that I can dig in and out. My sort of bugbear is if I'm offered a press trip, please have the space, hold the space for me, because by the time I've said yes to it, I've checked childcare, dog care, who can go, all of these things. So then if I go back and go, no, it's gone, I totally accept it's probably gone to a tier 1 title, totally understand why, but it's just a hassle for me. And so often if I get press trip requests from those people, I'll actually just won't get back to them, because I just can't do the calling my mum and seeing if she'll have the child and school runs and all that stuff. It just takes ages. So that's what I would say. Yeah, I think that's probably, I could go on, but I'm mindful of time, Henry, so I'll stop there.
Sorry, it's no good speaking when I'm muted. I was trying to say that was absolutely brilliant. Wonderful forensic detail, lots of angles. Look forward to your story on spirituality. Thank you so much. So we've got quite a few questions. We'll rattle through a few. We need to keep to time because I've promised that to the panelists, and I know a lot of people have meetings at the top of the hour. So I'm going to say some thank yous. Melina Colley at Visit Austin says, how do you see luxury wellness and tech biohacking your health evolving in travel? I feel Susan's answered that. Ivana Shield at Aviarep says, what is the key ingredient or new trend arising in luxury travel this year? And I hope our panel have covered that since. Interesting one from Fiona Call at Expedia. We're very close to the newest series of White Lotus. Anyone heard of that? In Thailand, and there's huge excitement. And is the panel expecting to see momentum continuing around Thailand as a top luxury destination this year, or have we reached peak excitement? Anyone want to talk about Thailand?
I'll talk about Thailand.
Yep.
It's a place I love. I was there last year. But and the White Lotus thing, I get it. But you know, more interesting to me is the recent legalization of same-sex marriage. I would have loved to know what that would do for travel to Thailand. You know, so for me, I think all the White Lotus stuff will probably be well covered in the consumer press. But I would probably like to see something like that that's a bit, you know, shows Thailand in a different light. Although having said that, we do like set jetting pieces. We just did something on you know, the castle to stay in if your clients are fans of the Traitors, which, you know, which did kind of really well for us. So yeah, it's we do want to pick up on set jetting pieces, but I also want to flag other, you know, really meaningful stories that are happening in destinations, like I mentioned about Thailand and that recent development.
Okay. Question for Lizanne from Laura Davies at 8020 Comms. She says, will your piece on Geneva and high net worth individuals cover private aviation and conferences at all?
Yeah, so the one that I've just done, which is on the mountains, basically has covered the rebuilding of Gstaad Airport. So I'll do that. And then, yes, when I come to Geneva and the lakes, yes, it will. Absolutely. So bring it on. Send me anything you've got.
Lovely. Steve Robert Shaw of Visit Sweden reminds us that contrast therapy is oh so very Swedish. Thank you very much, Steve, for that.
I think the Finnish might object to that. I think the Finnish think it's them.
Oh, right.
Let's share. Let's not worry about it.
There's going to be a Scandi fight. Robin Ellis from Quinn PR says, and this is in terms of when each of you delegates to other writers for your pages. In terms of sustainability and reducing footprint in travel, are editors working more now with local journalists to review hotels and destinations? Is this on the rise as editors try and reduce air miles and travel costs? Obviously, it's tricky because you've got to get the right content. April, do you want to start us on that?
I'll give my 2 pennies worth. We personally don't have a huge commissioning budget for freelancers, so we do tend to do stuff ourselves, but it has always kind of foxed me to a degree that we do send people halfway around the world when there are people already in that part of the world who can really tell us what's happening on the ground. Obviously, when a British journalist or whatever nationality journalist or whatever title, you go with that mindset and you're looking for things that you know will appeal back to that demographic. But yeah, I'd love to use people more on the ground. But you know, I think that's more of a sort of Condé Nast Traveler kind of question, really, rather than TTG. But no, we do have a hardy bunch of freelancers that we send out to places. I wouldn't want to do them out of any work because they are really good freelancers. They understand the trade. They understand what we're trying to do. Yeah. But I think I can't remember, someone will correct me whether it was, is it Country and Townhouse or Townhouse and Country?
Country and Townhouse.
Yeah, they have a really good philosophy now on you know, tracking of the journalist footprint and everything, and really sort of interrogating, do you need to go on that trip, or is there another way that it can be covered? So yeah, I think it's going to be much more of a question as we move forward, for sure.
And I think Lucy Cleland, who is the publisher, they're actually B Corp as well.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
A lot of effort into it. And Frank Kellett is the you know, sustainability, and she's brilliant. So they really do try to be as sincere as they can about it.
Yeah, sincerity, I think.
Just on that, we will, if we have got people there, if in the destination, I will sometimes do it, but most of the time we maximize it by getting a few different pieces from one trip. So.
And a very, very quick point, actually, now we're running out of time, but collaboration between PRs to make sure that the journey, I said this years ago a couple of years ago on a webinar, collaboration between hotels and the PRs to make sure that we do get more on the ground. Yes, it might be a Six Senses trip, but, you know, can we make more of that flight once we are on it and get as many stories and properties involved as possible, rather than it being like, oh, you know, well, we can't pick you up from there, or, you know, more collaboration would be good in that vein.
That's a really good point, really, you know. But I think people are being, because they're going to share costs then, so that helps.
Yeah, sharing costs is also useful for sure. Yeah.
So sorry to Izzy at Lemongrass for not having time to cover your question, but I'm going to end on a question from Kezia Hayes from the PC Agency. Over your careers, esteemed panelists, you've been on some wonderful press trips, she wonders, and which one has stood out the best, if you can pick one? So just let's finish the session with your memory of your favourite press trip of all time.
I'll go quickly. I have a really bad memory because I'm old, so most of my things I can remember happened in the last few years, and I don't know if she's out there, but Charlotte Rouse, who many of you will know, is one of my faves, and we went to Botswana in 2023, and I have not laughed as much, I've not eaten as much good food, and by the way, it was one of the best safaris you've ever done. So it's really important to get that mix of a really good bunch of people, amazing destination, you know, fabulous people, and that will stay with me for a long time.
Terrific, April. Lisanne?
Yeah, I mean, well, I actually will have quickly with two. So Vietnam with what was Bacall, now sort of Ruggle Wolf, but then Dovetail sent me and my newly adopted daughter, and it was her first ever time away, to Sabi Sabi in South Africa, and I took her out of school for a week, and it was just phenomenal. So I think a child's first trip was just amazing, and Sabi Sabi is just, you know, an incredible safari experience. So yes, that was that.
Marvelous. How special. And last word to Susan.
Well, can I praise you this by saying I've got an electric car, we've got masses of solar panels, air source heat pump, but we did go to the Antarctic. But honestly, I mean, we'll never go again. It was the most amazing trip to realize that it's not just white. The colors of the ice, where different fungi and algae are growing, is extraordinary. They are it's like you're seeing the most amazing sculptures that you've ever seen. And then the wildlife, it's extraordinary. It doesn't know that it should be frightened of you. We went past this walrus, and it was just snoring on the beach, and it just wasn't bothered by us. And the penguins would come running up to us, and it was just the most unbelievable trip that you should only do once. And half the people on our trip shouldn't have done it because they were waiting to see polar bears.
Amazing.
And one French bloke didn't even ever get off the bloody boat. He just stayed and ate on the boat the whole time. And one more thing is that we were told as soon as we arrived, if anybody injures themselves, we have to go back because we've got a bit of a hospital on board, but not much. And so, and also you have to, there's no jetties or anything. You have to land and get yourself off and not fall over. And we came out of that briefing, and this old woman fell down the stairs, and everybody just went, "Are you all right?" But they were not bothered about her. They were just bothered about this trip we were meant to be on. Fortunately, she was all right, and we had a brilliant trip.
Marvellous, Susan. And very interesting that penguins are more pro-travel writers than walruses. I wasn't aware of that, so that's great. Well, thank you all. That's been the most insightful and revealing and detailed webinar I think we've ever had. It was absolutely wonderful. So great to hear from you all, our supreme panel of travel writers. Thank you to Susan Darcy, Lisanne Curry, and April Hutchinson. You've all been brilliant. And as to you, our audience, thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you at IMM, which is just 2 weeks away. Do come up and say hi. Thank you for joining us today. Many more webinars on the way. Thank you to our panel, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.